welcome to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. I'm Megan Shaw and here are your top stories on Monday the 2nd of February. Ride retirement. Britain's oldest theme park ride in Margate to shut permanently, to much dismay from locals.
What are Live Nation saying when they just let assets like this disappear, when it's one of the oldest wooden roller coasters in the world?
Costs over care leavers. Kent County Council calls for support for children's services.
Why should the Kent Council taxpayer be expected to pay for what is a national and an international emergency situation? That is simply not fair.
And reviving the ring. Genesis Pro Wrestling hosts family-friendly match to expand Kent's fighting community.
Having a company that is basically made in Kent, for Kent, by Kent people. When I first started wrestling back in 1997, I lived in Felixstowe in Suffolk, and I had to travel all the way down to Sittingbourne to train, and then the shows were all based in Kent.
But first, our top story. It was announced last week that the UK's oldest roller coaster in Margate was shut permanently after 105 years of operation. Dreamland's decision to retire the scenic railway at the theme park has been met with fierce criticism by locals who say not enough has been done to preserve the ride. But the park operator says it still has a long-term vision for the Grade 2 listed structure. And Chloe Brewster headed to Margate earlier to speak to some of those defending the railway.
Dreamland in Margate has been an iconic Kent tourist destination for decades, with its distinctive scenic railway ride being one of the first to catch your eye. Opened in 1920, the ride is Grade 2 star listed, the oldest roller coaster in the UK and one of only 8 scenic railways in the world. It's been through a lot though. Multiple arson attacks and a derailing have been major incidents in the ride's history, but now a new threat has been made against its future, this time by the park operator themselves.
Well, I never had the pleasure to ride the scenic railway for myself. I've seen hundreds of comments from people from Margate and from further afield who say coming here is one of their fondest memories.
From the age of 9, I've been going on the scenic railway, enjoying the rattles, the noises, and just the general feel of the roller coaster. It's just amazing. Not everywhere you can go and ride a 102-year-old roller coaster. You know, it's special. It really is special.
I always say that as a theme park, you could actually get rid of all the other rides as long as you had the scenic railway because of the heritage. And it's part and parcel of people coming on holiday, part and parcel of coastal history.
The decision to retire the ride, Dreamland say, was made alongside Historic England and Thanet District Council, but councillors here told me this wasn't something they were consulted on.
I've heard that people travel from abroad to go on this specific roller coaster because it's got that sort of national and international significance as such an old roller coaster. I hope that if we can get some more oversight into it, we can apply some pressure. It's really difficult because now it's privately owned. The council doesn't actually have any control over decisions that get made there. But I think the outpouring of, well, the outcry about it, hopefully we can put some pressure on for them to keep it open.
They've had so much money over the years. Looking back to like 2015, £15 million was spent rebuilding the railway. I think it's just part of our working class seaside heritage. We didn't want public money to go to Dreamland in 2015 to turn it into a music venue. We wanted to keep our heritage assets. We just need some honesty from Dreamland. Eddie Kemsley, where are you? Please come to scrutiny. I know you're going to try and stop. You're going to say we're a private company, we don't need to come to scrutiny. But in fact, public money went into Dreamland, and there should be accountability because of that.
A spokesperson for Dreamland said it is committed to finding a new long-term plan to reinvent the ride and for it to be enjoyed by future generations in a fresh way. But for many people here, they're hoping the scenic railway has not yet made its final journey. Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Margate.
Earlier, we were joined by the former director of the Dreamland Heritage Trust. So, John, thank you for joining us. Just first of all, can you tell us how important is it to you and also the wider culture in Margate to keep the heritage of Dreamland alive?
Well, the scenic railway has been there for more than 100 years, and it's the jewel in the crown of Dreamland, really. And huge numbers of people spent a long time campaigning and working and fundraising and getting public funds to get this scenic railway up and running again. And the structure following the fire some years ago was completely rebuilt as a replica. All the original trains were destroyed, and so 2 new ones were made. So the structure has effectively only been operating for 11 years. And it is, I was born in Margate. I've been riding that roller coaster since I was a child. And to the people of Margate and most people who come to Dreamland, it's absolutely the centrepiece.
And what was your reaction to finding out that the scenic railway would be closed for good?
It doesn't surprise me because there was some incident the year before last where there was some damage and it was never repaired. And despite lots of us asking Dreamland operators to get it back up and running, it wasn't at all last year. And I think really they're being very lazy and it's just inconvenient for them to do it. But people coming to Dreamland expect to be able to ride it and want to have that experience.
And I suppose maybe people who aren't too familiar or don't live in Margate, they might think, oh, it's just another roller coaster. But you did mention that it's been quite a permanent fixture in your life, born and raised in Margate, and something you kind of rode when you were a child. So why does this scenic railway mean so much for people in Margate?
Well, it means a lot to people all over the country, actually, because it's the oldest roller coaster there is. And Dreamland was such a big part for decades and decades of life in Margate for day trippers, visitors, residents. And emotionally, a lot of people are very caught up with it, which is why so many people and so many millions of public funds were poured into getting this park open again. And so from our point of view, the people in the town, we just want that up and running again. And we feel that the operators of the park should put their hands in their pockets and get it up and running again. They've turned the place into a venue for very large gigs. It's a destination for people across the country now. And so they've got the resources to do it. It's almost like a lost leader. And they even call their big arena stage the scenic stage. So I think it's beholden on them to keep this listed structure running. And,
with Margate being a seaside town, as you said, people across the country, I suppose, travel to Margate, probably travel to Dreamland as well. So are you worried about maybe the effects it might have on Margate, on the economy, on tourism, if there isn't that, world-famous scenic coaster there?
Well, I think it's a bit more than that, because Margate, as we know, even with the recent publicity about Madonna and Tracy Emin, Margate's become very, very popular and very trendy now. And so people will come to Margate anyway, but I think people coming will expect and want to ride on the scenic railway. And I believe they have a duty, the park operators, just to repair it and get it running. It may be inconvenient and annoying for them, but it's a betrayal of the town and everybody who's fought for that scenic railway and Dreamland to just say, oh, we're going to retire it.
Do you think Dreamland has done enough to try to preserve this roller coaster then?
I don't think they've done anything to preserve it. Up until 2 years ago, I was a member of the Dreamland Heritage Trust, which was a small charity set up to preserve and promote and protect the heritage of Dreamland. And I don't think the operators really care. I think they're looking for an excuse just to not bother because it's inconvenient.
Next, Kent County Council is demanding support from the government over the rising costs of children's services. The Reform leadership says the sheer number of unaccompanied asylum-seeking children leaving care is putting pressure on the local authority. But the opposition says the demands are designed to deflect from a poor Ofsted report released today. Local Democracy reporter Ollie Leader was at the press conference earlier.
Each of these blocks of paper represents 1,000 asylum-seeking children.
The signs of pressure piling up on Kent County Council's children's services as the authority's leader called for government support following an Ofsted downgrade. This increased demand is part of the reason the leader has written to Whitehall asking for additional funding. Though how much is needed isn't easy to answer.
I don't have a figure to tell you, it is a lot. When I wrote to the Home Office back in the summer, we were £250,000 down just in this financial year. By now, that's gone up, 3, 4, 5-fold. It's just ridiculous.
Opposition councillors take a very different point of view. They say that this press conference is not about holding the government's feet to the fire, but rather about deflecting away from a poor Ofsted report, which saw several categories downgraded from outstanding to good in relation to children's services.
What we saw this morning was a smokescreen for a failure that and a blaming of UASC children who we've known what numbers they've been coming in at for the last 10 years. We've known that our relationship with government has been fairly fraught. The thing that's changed in the last 2 years from an outstanding recommendation from Ofsted is a Reform UK administration, and that is the failure.
They are weak, they are poor, their quality is showing now, and you are ending up with reports like this that denigrate the service.
These calls for financial support come as KCC prepares to vote on its annual budget next week, complete with a proposed lower than usual council tax.
If there is not enough money to fund these services properly, why is it that this administration thinks that it can get away with without that £10 million that an extra 1% of council tax would raise?
But the KCC leader hopes a meeting with ministers could go a long way to finding a sustainable solution.
Why should the Kent council taxpayer be expected to pay for what is a national and an international emergency situation? That is simply not fair.
The government has been approached for comment, but there's no doubt that children's services will continue to tower over KCC without a long-term solution in sight. Ollie Leader in Maidstone.
Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now, an artist who set fire to a comic book shop in Rochester has been in prison for 3 years. In August, a fire broke out at Get Ready Comics in the early hours of the morning, destroying much of the store's high-end merchandise and collectibles. Officers from Kent Police said the offender watched as the fire took hold before leaving the scene. The man was later identified as 31-year-old Ziggy Mantas Stranseca, who'd received a suspended sentence for a similar offence just 2 months earlier. He was arrested 2 days after the incident and pleaded guilty at a court hearing in November. Stranseca was sentenced at Maidstone Crown Court last Friday to 3 years in prison for the arson, as well as for breaching his suspended sentence. Next, over the weekend, primary school children in Gravesend took to the streets chanting "Please protect our village" to protest the planned housing development next to their primary school, Isted Rise. Esquire Developments is proposing to build 154 homes on the land next to the primary school, and the sole access to the site will come down onto Downs Road, not far from access to the school. The children were also joined by parents and local politicians who share the children's concerns about air quality, environmental damage and extra traffic, with more than 1,500 people already having sent objections. Esquire have been contacted for comment. Next, in Leybourne, a couple were left in disbelief when after her husband received a cancer diagnosis just a few months before a lump was found in his wife's breast. In January 2024, Lee Miller began chemotherapy following a diagnosis of lung cancer after also undergoing radiotherapy and immunotherapy, which resulted in a stroke and being admitted into intensive care. The cancer spread to his lung and Lee Miller had been given 8 months to live. His wife, Liz Miller, had also been battling breast cancer and says the disease has caused havoc with their family as she looks to find relief and comfort for her partner Lee's precious time left. And in White Post Lane near Gravesend, traveller families are facing being made homeless after Gravesham Council has rejected plans for homes. Stuart Borman and his family bought a 75,000 square foot plot last year that they are currently living on. The family submitted a planning application for 8 homes and 2 day rooms for utilities, but after 200 objections, Gravesham Council rejected the plans on the grounds that it was on Greenbelt land. Stuart Borman believes his family are being discriminated against while he's just trying to settle his family permanently and get his children into education. Next, for the past 5 years, Gravesend has been lighting up the streets every January with a festival, and this year has had a focus on animals, for allowing local artists to come together and showcase their skills. From street performers to a silent disco and a giant firebird shooting fireworks from emergency exit arts, there were plenty of creative ideas being hatched on the high street. And Henry Luck was down in Gravesend to find out more.
For the past 5 years, Gravesend has been lighting up the streets every January with a light show to bring happiness to the community, and it's returned once again. This year's theme, Light and Life, with a focus on animals, allows local artists to come together and showcase their skills.
I like to see the local artists, and we commissioned artists to come in and we selected 4 to set up around the area, and it's such a great opportunity for them to showcase their skills, and also it's very interactive, so people can enjoy their displays and also participate as well.
Despite it being a cold, wet night in January, it certainly hasn't stopped Gravesend from trying to bring some light to the community. From street performers to a silent disco and a giant firebird shooting fireworks made by Emergency Exit Arts served as some of the biggest highlights of the night.
It's really fun getting to drive the Firebird. It's one of my favourite properties that we do. I really enjoy the shared energy of a parade. I love seeing everybody else coming together and joining in on a parade and having a lovely time.
Gravesend will no doubt be at work hatching another light show for next year, and what it will be about is up in the air. Henry Luck for KMTV in Gravesend.
And now the weather. Tonight we can expect a mostly cloudy evening, lows of 6 degrees in Tunbridge Wells, highs of 7 in Dover. Tomorrow morning, clouds continuing to cover the skies, light showers across the county, lowest at 5 in Dartford, highest in Maidstone at 6 degrees. Into the afternoon, rain clouds continue to spread over Kent, highs of 8 in Dover, lows of 6 in Dartford, wind at 7. And for your outlook for the rest of the week, sunshine on Wednesday, highs of 10, returning rain on Thursday and Friday, temperatures peaking at 10. And now let's look at today's sports news, including a look at Gillingham FC's defeat by Bromley, Maidstone United welcoming back newest sign-up after injury, and Canterbury rugby team's winning streak coming to an end, and Chatham Town's victory against Southend United.
First up, Gillingham FC's captain Armani Little is looking ahead to a League Two trip to Notts County after a 4-1 defeat by rivals Bromley. Armani has said that Gillingham will have a reset ahead of their trip to Notts County, only 3 days after the loss. Little went on to say, "We have to dust ourselves off now, we can't dwell on that, and we'll reset our heads and put full focus and be confident and ready to go again." During the game, Gillingham was seen to not give up and kept on fighting until the final whistle. We can also hear a bit now from Gillingham's manager, Gareth Ainsworth, after the Bromley defeat.
Yeah, listen, I picked the team. It's on me, that one. Fans, I am gutted for you because I know how important that one is, you know. 2 teams in Kent. Bromley, top of the league, and they showed a lot of why they are top of the league, you know. Took some fantastic chances, but there was some unrecognisable stuff from us, which, again, we've been so good lately. You know, and not just lately, for a long time. That's probably our worst home performance for quite some time.
Next, Maidstone United's summer signing Jamie Yealer has been handed his debut by George Ellacobi after a lengthy spell out injured. Yealer had been suffering a stress fracture in his back not long after joining from Chatham. Ellacobi says he's been working hard on getting back to the team. He was named as a substitute and came on for the last few minutes of the game in a 1-1 draw against Tunbridge Angels. Ellacobi said it was absolutely fantastic to see Jamie out there. It's been very frustrating for him not being a part of the first half of the season. Next, Canterbury rugby team's 8-game winning streak has come to an unfortunate end after a 28-21 defeat by Havant. A mixture of missed tackles, poor ball retention and questionable decisions has led to a crashing defeat for Canterbury's own rugby side after 8 consecutive wins in the National League Two East games. Its mishaps led to Havant gaining a 14-point lead at the beginning of the game, something Canterbury was able to slightly catch up on but didn't work out for them in the end. Now Canterbury are placed 4th and will return to league action on Valentine's Day against leaders Old Albanians. Next, Chatham Town had an unfortunate end to their FA Trophy run, being beaten 1-0 by Southend United. It was a heartbreaking way to lose, Southend having their penalty saved, but the ball rebounding straight to an opposing player for an easy finish. The Chats thought they equalised in the dying minutes when a ball appeared to have crossed the line, but the goal wasn't given. The Chatham Town manager Kevin Hake said, "I don't want the focus to be on the ref because that would just be pointless. The focus should be on the boys who've taken the club into the last 16 of a national competition for the first time in history." That's all for your sports news for now.
And January's coming to an end, so many in Kent will be breathing a sigh of relief. So that's no more dry January, no more Blue Monday or Christmas saving. I'm sure that's great news for lots of people. But for Kent's football clubs, Finn, it also marks the end of the January transfer window. So for the Garden of England sides, a successful transfer window could mean a mid-season comeback for some, or reinforcing their squads for a potential promotion battle. So Finn, you're going to have to explain this all to me and break that down. So let's just start. Tell me about the Gills. What could this mean for them?
Well, the Gills have had quite a late run into the January transfer window. It's been very, very interesting to see. So they only had the one deadline day transfer. That was Omar Beckles, who we can actually see on the screen now. This is Omar Beckles. So you'll notice he's wearing a Shrewsbury Town kit. He's the only deadline day signing. He's 34, a very experienced defender, over 450 appearances for some higher league sides. That includes clubs like Shrewsbury, but also some League Two sides like Accrington, Crewe and, like I say, Shrewsbury. But he departs from Leyton Orient, a League One side. He was captain there and actually helped win them promotion to League One back in 2023. So a very strong signing there and a great kind of shore up of our defences. There are some gaps, for instance, at right back. The lots of fans will think, oh, that's good. We've got some more experience in the back line, especially after losing 4-1 to Bromley at the weekend. Some other notable signings. Ronan Hale, this was sort of the one that you wanted to come through. It was a bit up in the air. People weren't sure if he was going to come through. We've got him from Ross County. He's a striker and also a Northern Ireland international. So very exciting to have an international player making up that front line. There will be questions about that front line. We've now got a lot of strikers and a lot of wingers. So it's really a toss-up as to who's going to be our starting front three. Quick mention, Cameron Antwi. He's a midfielder on a 2.5-year deal from Newport. And we've also recalled Travis Akomea from Watford. He's a defender. And also Cameron Antwi rejoins us. Lenny Serino rejoins us. But that's pretty much it for our January transfer window.
Perfect, Finn. Thank you for running us through for that. Well, that's all we have for this part of the show. But stay tuned after the break. We'll be back with plenty more stories, such as revisiting our top story. See you then. welcome to Kent Tonight live on KMTV. I'm Megan Shaw and here are your top stories on Monday the 2nd of February. Ride retirement. Britain's oldest theme park ride in Margate to shut permanently, to much dismay from locals.
What are Live Nation saying when they just let assets like this disappear, when it's one of the oldest wooden roller coasters in the world?
Costs over care leavers. Kent County Council calls for support for children's services.
Why should the Kent Council taxpayer be expected to pay for what is a national and an international emergency situation? That is simply not fair.
And reviving the ring. Genesis Pro Wrestling hosts family-friendly match to expand Kent's fighting community.
Having a company that is basically made in Kent, for Kent, by Kent people. When I first started wrestling back in 1997, I lived in Felixstowe in Suffolk, and I had to travel all the way down to Sittingbourne to train, and then the shows were all based in Kent.
But first, a return to our top story. It was announced last week that the UK's oldest roller coaster in Margate was shut permanently after 105 years of operation. Dreamland's decision to retire the scenic railway at the theme park has been met with fierce criticism by locals who say not enough has been done to preserve the ride. But the park operator says it still has a long-term vision for the Grade 2 listed structure. And Chloe Brewster headed to Margate earlier to speak to some of those defending the railway.
Dreamland in Margate has been an iconic Kent tourist destination for decades, with its distinctive scenic railway ride being one of the first to catch your eye. Opened in 1920, the ride is Grade 2 star listed, the oldest roller coaster in the UK and one of only 8 scenic railways in the world. It's been through a lot though. Multiple arson attacks and a derailing have been major incidents in the ride's history, but now a new threat has been made against its future, this time by the park operator themselves.
Well, I never had the pleasure to ride the scenic railway for myself. I've seen hundreds of comments from people from Margate and from further afield who say coming here is one of their fondest memories.
From the age of 9, I've been going on the scenic railway, enjoying the rattles, the noises, and just the general feel of the roller coaster. It's just amazing. Not everywhere you can go and ride a 102-year-old roller coaster. You know, it's special. It really is special.
I always say that as a theme park, you could actually get rid of all the other rides as long as you had the scenic railway because of the heritage. And it's part and parcel of people coming on holiday, part and parcel of coastal history.
The decision to retire the ride, Dreamland say, was made alongside Historic England and Thanet District Council, but councillors here told me this wasn't something they were consulted on.
I've heard that people travel from abroad to go on this specific roller coaster because it's got that sort of national and international significance as such an old roller coaster. I hope that if we can get some more oversight into it, we can apply some pressure. It's really difficult because now it's privately owned. The council doesn't actually have any control over decisions that get made there. But I think the outpouring of, well, the outcry about it, hopefully we can put some pressure on for them to keep it open.
They've had so much money over the years. Looking back to like 2015, £15 million was spent rebuilding the railway. I think it's just part of our working class seaside heritage. We didn't want public money to go to Dreamland in 2015 to turn it into a music venue. We wanted to keep our heritage assets. We just need some honesty from Dreamland. Eddie Kemsley, where are you? Please come to scrutiny. I know you're going to try and stop. You're going to say we're a private company, we don't need to come to scrutiny. But in fact, public money went into Dreamland, and there should be accountability because of that.
A spokesperson for Dreamland said it is committed to finding a new long-term plan to reinvent the ride and for it to be enjoyed by future generations in a fresh way. But for many people here, they're hoping the scenic railway has not yet made its final journey. Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Margate.
Next, Medway Police Sergeant Gabriel Chandler has been dismissed from police force after a campaign of harassment against driving instruction company Intensive UK. After Chandler's son was found to be eligible for a driving course booked with Intensive UK, the company cancelled the booked course but did not issue a full refund as the deposit was non-refundable. Chandler then began accusing the company of theft, threatened employees with jail and claimed the company had ties to criminal activity. Detective Chief Superintendent John Armory, head of professional standards at the force, said, "Even when off duty, police officers are still held to the high standards of professional conduct, and in this case, PC Chandler's behaviour fell far below what is expected of our officers and staff. Next, a security guard at Maidstone Hospital says she may never work again after being assaulted by a drunk patient. Lou Wicks was attacked by an intoxicated man and after examination of her injuries was found to have damage to her ligaments and spine. The aftermath has left Lou reliant on a combination of pills and the inability to complete basic tasks, saying she lost her independence and confidence. The General Secretary of the Security Industry Federation is calling for Parliament to change the laws surrounding workplace assaults. Next, a Swale Borough Council meeting on immigration was adjourned following disruption from the public gallery, as I have been finding out. Security was tight at last week's Swale Borough Council meeting, following previous disruptions from activists, but that didn't faze those in the public gallery. This follows December's meeting chaos, with offices left vandalised and councillors targeted.
Probably the worst council meeting I've ever attended. Certainly it's the most unsafe I've ever felt. It's a shame, but we do have to have some protections. I think it's becoming far too common that intimidation is being used as a tactic. Certainly after the December meeting, in actual fact, the very next night, I had my own personal property. My home had a swastika spray painted on it. I had someone bashing at the door. I had 2 phone calls threatening myself and my family, saying if I hadn't resigned by the end of the week, they'd be back and they would be doing much worse.
Consequently, there was extra protection on hand from police officers and attendants, only possible with a ticket. But despite that, outbursts from the public gallery forced the meeting to be adjourned during a motion on border emergency, put forward by KCC Chairman Richard Palmer.
The people... Councillors are now adjourned. Thank you.
There was nothing like that occurred on the 10th of December meeting, which was totally disgraceful. However, it was shouting out. There was shouting out on Wednesday. There was shouting out on the last meeting in January. However, it was no different to the sort of comment you get during a planning application that is quite contentious.
And this isn't the only council enforcing tough measures, with Medway Council upping their police presence at council meetings last year.
I'm grateful to police in Medway for their really clear position on. They have had a very visible presence at our meetings, certainly since the first incident in Swale, but I'm staggered that this has happened again and that these people think that this is a positive way to present their ideas.
And with the meeting able to resume after the gallery was cleared, some councillors worry what enhanced security measures and the intimidation of councillors could mean for local democracy.
All this is doing at the moment is switching people off from politics, off from councils. Are we going to get enough candidates come forward for the next set of elections? Who knows? If this sort of behaviour continues, I don't think we will.
Megan Shaw for KMTV in Swale. Now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all your latest stories across Kent by logging on to our website kmtv.co.uk. There you'll find all our stories, including this one about a cycling park in Gravesend, which is one of many across the country are calling for more government funding.
British Cycling are asking for the government to support another wave of funding for their Places to Ride scheme, after they say they've saved the NHS £13 million by making the country healthier. Cyclo Park in Gravesend was one of the 150 sites that opened in 2012 after the scheme began, and it aimed to create more safe spaces for people to learn to bike, especially young people, the elderly and those with physical or mental disabilities, all as a fun way to exercise.
We are a centre for movement. It's not just cycling here, but we're very broad in the community. So we'll get young people riding here as toddlers, balance bikes and little scooters. They'll then progress on to learn to ride programs, which we do from 5 years plus. But we're all about kind of families moving together. We've got a big fitness program, a movement program for youngsters, for new mums, all the way up to senior generations.
And now British Cycling are asking for people to write to their local MP so that the government will invest in a second wave of funding, which Cyclopark say they would use for their disability provisions in their Cycle for All scheme.
Now, here at Cyclo for All, they give those with disabilities a chance to get out on bikes like these and like some different types they've got. They've got tandems, they've got bikes you can operate just with your hands, or this kind of trike where two people can pedal at once. So to see how much it helps people and, you know, just to have a ride, David here is going to show me the ropes. Ready?
Yep.
Let's go.
Let's go.
The team added the potential funding would likely go towards more lights for the track, meaning they could keep the sessions going on for longer.
And not only just for us, but for the whole of Cycle Park community, like the elderly, especially coming here somewhere safe to actually come and cycle away from the roads and the traffic and feel safe when they're cycling. And yeah, so it would be a really big event to happen for us to be able to progress our sessions, even to then possibly look at is there chances of opening classes in the evening, because if people are at work and they need the adaptive bikes, they might not want to come out when it's pitch dark and things, so being able to then see if we can progress what we offer.
Of the £13 million that British Cycling estimate they've saved, this comes from reducing the risk factors to conditions like type 2 diabetes, back pain, hip fractures, as well as mental conditions like depression, psychological distress and dementia. If they do achieve their fundraising goals, they hope the money would mean they can keep their wheels turning and their tracks busy and lit, especially into the winter months for those who need it most. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Gravesend.
And now it's time for our final break, but stay tuned to hear about a wrestler from Genesis Professional Wrestling. Catch you then. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now, don't forget you can keep up to date with all your latest stories across Kent on our website. That's kmtv.co.uk. There you find all our stories, including this one about local homeless people in Gravesham, where the council is trying a new way to help them get more mental health support.
Support for the homeless has traditionally come in the form of temporary housing and hot drinks, but here in Gravesham they're trying a new approach alongside the NHS.
We've reached out to them because we recognise that a lot of our people who are either homeless, or residents who are homeless or at risk of homelessness, had some medical issues. Some of them were mental health issues. So what we've done is we recognise that if we can intervene earlier with actual expert medical trained partners, it's a much more effective way of helping the people.
The new model brings together psychiatrists, nurses and social workers to meet people where they are, including street-based assessments here on the streets of Gravesham.
It's not about curing homelessness, it's about preventing homelessness for our residents and helping them rebuild their lives and getting back onto a really firm footing for the future.
The approach involves an outreach team to speak to people on the streets and build trust before they're passed to the relevant support worker.
We work with Gravesham Borough Council, who have outreach teams, and they will go out in all hours, in the middle of the night, in the early hours, rain or shine, and they will find people who may be outdoors, and it's not clear why they may be outdoors, and they'll have a conversation with them, try to find out what's going on, what they need, and what could help. People who are rough sleeping, they need support from every angle. I think not one thing will help. Obviously, getting housing is really important, but sometimes when people have been through very difficult life circumstances and they've got mental health problems, it's very hard to maintain that housing in the long run. And this is where addressing their mental health needs, past trauma, any other mental illness, is so vital to maintaining their long-term recovery, and that's where we step in.
The team here say they want to keep this as accessible as possible, so no appointments, only bookable by phone or too far away to travel to on foot.
The accessibility of the service is the best part of it. It is so accessible, and our teams go out on the streets to see people where they are. So lots of work has been done in the background to raise awareness that this service is available, and also now that we are expanding it across the county, we'll be certainly doing more work so that people are aware that this service exists, and we'd want more and more people to come forward and receive help and support from our organisation.
The team here believe this is the best way to stop that cycle of homelessness and hope other councils across Kent will follow suit. Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Gravesham.
Now, established in 2019, Genesis Professional Wrestling was created to give the Kent community a brand of wrestling they can truly call their own. But it's not just about what happens in the ring. The academy trains referees as well as wrestlers, giving people the chance to develop skills across every part of the sport. So from as young as 8, juniors are taught in a safe, supporting environment, and when they're ready, they get the opportunity to step into the spotlight. And our reporter, Maisie Walker, went down last weekend to see some of the Academy's homegrown talents in action.
Genesis Professional Wrestling is on a mission to provide the Kent community with a brand of wrestling that they can follow and call their own.
Having a company that is basically made in Kent, for Kent, by Kent people. When I first started wrestling back in 1997, I lived in Felixstowe in Suffolk, and I had to travel all the way down to Sittingbourne to train, and then the shows were all based in Kent. And there's a lot of travelling around that we have to do. So the idea is that we source local talent, we train them up, and then we put them on our shows and they perform in front of our audiences. And you're not then on the road 300 days a year. We're catering to our own community.
Their academy is a safe place for juniors from the age of 8 to learn and develop across all aspects of the wrestling scene. When they are ready, students are offered the opportunity to showcase their talent during the shows. I went down on the weekend to see some of their homegrown stars from their very own academy in action.
Here at the Balling in Maidstone, things are starting to really fire up. As you can probably see from behind me, people are starting to pour in, and the wrestlers are due any second now.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Genesis Professional Wrestling!
We have a children's club and an adults class. And I know every single one of them by name. It's a whole family. My son is currently taking the British wrestling circuit by storm. So not only has he progressed to the Genesis main shows, he's out working the British wrestling scene. So, yeah, we definitely can see them through from a childhood dream right to achieving it.
And it's clear the sport is loved by adults just as much as it is by kids.
I watched as a kid and kind of fell out with it for several years. I was in a sports bar one day just having a drink and it came on TV and I was like, that looks like fun and I need to go to the gym more. And it feels like, you know, taking your shirt off in front of a crowd of people, that's a good incentive to actually work out more. I just looked for local schools, found the Gem Pro Academy.
I was always a huge fan as a kid growing up. Just pretty much like everyone saw it on TV and got the bug. And at the time when I started was in '95. So I've been doing it 30 years now. It was a lot different landscape than it is today.
I've always loved wrestling from the age of 8 or 9. Grew up watching it, thoroughly enjoyed it. Knew I'm never athletic enough to actually do it. I've done one session and I can't train myself to land.
Whether in the ring or in the crowd, for many here, it's not just about the show. It's about being a part of something that feels close to home. Maisie Walker for KMTV, Maidstone.
And joining us live is Bruce Bravo from Genesis Professional Wrestling to discuss his career at the club as well as other ventures outside the profession. So, Bruce Bravo, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, first of all, let's just tell us and the viewers what is it like being part of Genesis Professional Wrestling?
Do you know what? I'll tell you, I've been with Genesis since I was about 19, 20 years old. And just the opportunities I've been given at Genesis to progress in my professional wrestling career as Bruce Bravo. It's just been fantastic. And just every show that we have someone, John Moores, trains up his own guys from the school and he brings them to the shows and also brings in other talent from outside on the independent scene to come and wrestle with his guys. And it's just fantastic. And it's like a little community of everyone all together. And we'll work together to try and get the shows as big as possible and for the fans to enjoy as much as possible.
Absolutely. There are kind of many layers to this. Obviously, there's your own kind of professional acceleration there, and it also kind of boosts young people as a school as well. So tell me a bit more about that aspect.
So at Genesis, at the school, we have kids from ages 8 all the way up to, I said whenever, even adults. We separate them. So we have a children's class, then we have an adults class. Obviously, children's classes, obviously, they will begin them and then they will obviously train up. And then the same with adults, are separate. It's down in Maidstone, TKO. We also do academy shows. So once they've progressed enough, they found their character, they've got maybe some gear, they've worked out who they want to be as a professional wrestler, and maybe some movesets, then they might get to go on to the spotlight in an academy show. So not one of our main shows, but academy shows, so they have a chance to see what it would feel like on a proper show, where it's only friends and family are invited, so they don't have to jump straight into the deep end of the pool. And then, if they do well on there, and if they want to, they can be moved up into the main shows, where they will get to face the likes of Johnny Storm, as you just seen, who's been around for a long time, been on TNA, he's been all over the world wrestling. So, and I've had the opportunity to face him myself. So, but yeah, there's lots of good opportunities for young people to join in, or like any age, doesn't matter how old you are, there's a place for you at Genesis Professional Wrestling.
And you mentioned Johnny Storm there, but let's also talk about your amazing professional wrestling career. So, I mean, we need to address the ginormous awards in the studio there. So, you're a double champion,
last
Bruce.
night,
So tell us about that.
Yeah, last night I faced none other than my arch nemesis, Big Bully Briggs, for the world title. I already had the Extreme title. The difference between these, the world title, it's the main title of Genesis. This is the top gold of Genesis Professional Wrestling. The Extreme title is it's normally only defended on the adult shows. On the adult shows, we have hardcore matches, which is another type of wrestling basically, and death matches, where it includes not just wrestling, but violent, a lot more violent, and can include weapons, the likes of barbed wire, and like chairs, thumbtacks, tables, and stuff like that. But yeah, last night I had a match with Big Bully Briggs, and I came out victorious, and now I'm the Gem Pro double champ.
I bet they're pretty heavy as well. I bet you've not worn them both at once.
Not just yet.
That would weigh you down. And of course, you mentioned those young people that kind of go through your programme and I suppose find themselves through wrestling. But what also do you think it means for these young people, residents across Kent, to have wrestling made for Kent, in Kent? Do you think that's important?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely important because one, obviously people get to come and enjoy the shows, so they get to have a fun night out. But also, when you join the academy and stuff, you're not just learning all these skills and getting to live out a dream, but you also get to make friendship with all the people there and social skills and stuff like that. Like, it's like a little close community, and everyone just gets on, and we try our best to help each other grow as a person and in our professional careers and outside. And I said, like, you can get so much out of it.
Of course, and maybe for any young budding wrestlers watching, or maybe not young, just budding wrestlers watching along at home, what's your kind of advice for getting started in wrestling?
For getting started wrestling, I said join an academy. Is come down to Maidstone, TKO, Mrs. John Moore's, and come down, enjoy, come see what it's about, see if it's for you, because it's not for everyone. There's a lot you have to go through, but if you come down.